All right, let's go ahead and model a coffee cup. I'm not going to use reference. I almost always do, but I think we all pretty much know what a coffee cup looks like. And this is mostly just a demonstration of the modeling tools that we've been looking at. So I've got the grid visible. Way you make that happen if you turn it off is you just go over to display and then grid and just make sure that that's turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and create a polygon primitive cylinder. And I'm going to go to my side view. Doesn't really matter which one. And just scoot it up so that the base of it is at the origin, so to speak. And let's see, we'll go ahead and I can go through certainly and select these faces, do a shift select. This thing is kind of in the way. If I want to hide the transform gizmo, I can just tap the Q key. It basically just goes to the pointer mode. You can also just select that if you want. So that's Q, W, E, and R. You can see what's happening up here. So I want to do this a little bit more cheaply, a little more easily. So I'm just going to go to this vert here in the middle that's touching all of these faces. And you can go to select and then convert selection. And then you can convert it to faces. And it'll convert it to all of the faces that are touching that vert. So that's kind of a quick and easy way to get them all selected. I'm going to go to edit mesh and we will pick extrude. So what just happened is it effectively duplicated these faces, kind of. Basically, there's an extra face now where this edge is, and we can't see it until I actually do a negative scale, and we pull it in, and now we can see we've got this extra row. Had I not extruded, let me go ahead and we'll just go back to convert selection to faces. That's what happens, right? So basically when I extrude, which I can do with well, I guess that wasn't my last command. You can repeat the commands with the G key. So I'm just going to go back to extrude here. And you can see I get this new little gizmo. I don't really want to mess with any of these things. I want to do all of my scaling from the center of the selection. So we'll just go ahead and however thick a coffee cup needs to be. And then I'm going to go ahead, again, if I just tried to move it, this is what I get. But if I can extrude, now I have some extra faces to work with. I'm going to go back to my right view, tap the 4 key to go into wireframe, and I'm just going to scoot this down until we're at a reasonable depth for what that coffee cup might actually be. Doesn't make too much difference there. It's just a way to make sure that we don't go through the floor or have an inch thick base there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and deselect. So I need to go to object mode. I can either right click and go to object mode, or I can just tap the F8 key once or twice. You may need to hit it more than once. And you can see my edge smoothing here is not as consistent as what's going on here. It didn't really do any edge smoothing when it created those new faces. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to mesh display, and then we can use soften harden edges. And the threshold by default is 30 degrees. So these are all less than 30 degrees, so they will be smoothed. But it can see that this is 90 degrees, which is more than 30, so that edge will be preserved in its hardness. So now let's go ahead and make the handle. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect all of these edges. Mesh display, edit mesh, connect. And I want this to just be right down the middle, and I'm going to turn off insert with edge flow. Great. Okay, so now that I've got this edge, it's going to be pretty easy for me to add 2 edges of equal distance using the offset edge loop. So I can click and drag, and we'll do something like that. All right, so now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll just grab a couple of these faces, and you can see here on the ground where my side versus front is. I mean, I guess that's not really super clear, but you can see where the axes are, right? So this is the x-axis here, and this is the z-axis. So typically the x-axis is going to go side to side, and the z-axis is going to go kind of front to back. So let me just confirm that that's actually what's going on here. So I'll select some faces here on what I think is side to side, and we'll go to the front view, and we can see, yes, they are pointing to the side. All right. So that doesn't make too much difference, except like if I'm grabbing some of these faces and I want to do something with them, if I tap the W key to go to move mode, and I'm either on the side facing axes or the front facing, this is already going to be kind of lined up so that I can use the tools here, and as opposed to something like this, right? Where like if I were to come over and grab the tools, it's going to pull off at some kind of some odd angle there. So that's not to say that you can't change this. the axis orientation can be set to component, in which case it totally works. But it's just kind of like either object or world is going to give me effectively the same result. So if I can work on that axis, it doesn't really matter which one, then that's a win for me. So I'm going to go ahead and select these faces, and we are going to, that's kind of thick, really, for a handle. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of extra edges here, making sure to follow the edge flow. Whoops. So now I can just work with these little faces, and I'm going to extrude. So we'll go back to edit mesh and extrude and whatever. We'll just kind of pull something out. You can see they get a little bit wider there, so I'll just tap the R key for scale, and we can just kind of scale it in a bit. All right, so now let's go ahead and I'm going to tap the Q key to hide the little transform widget, and I want to use bevel here. So we'll go ahead and use bevel, and that's probably going to be just fine. I've got some options here if I get some of this other stuff out of the way, where I can change my values, but whatever it was, it is going to be totally fine. All right, so now let's go ahead and grab these faces, and we'll do another extrude. And in this case, I'm actually, like, I could use these things here to try to scale it in. That might be okay to try to keep a consistent edge thickness here, but it's not really, wasn't a huge success there because it's a little bit awkward. Whatever, we can fix it. None of this stuff was all that difficult to fix. I'm going to go ahead and delete these faces. Go to edge mode. So this is a little bit of a problem. Right now, I tried to do a double click on this to get all the way around, and we're not really connected here. There isn't, there's a vert on one side, but not the other. Oh, you can see there's actually some mischief happening here. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I think that's from my little transform after I did my extrude. So I'm going to just do a shift select on these guys, and we'll just kind of move them. Oh, looks like I need to do these too. Again, just a shift select. And I'm going to make it visible so I can see what's going on. All right, so I've got these little faces here on the inside that I wasn't really aware of. That's no big deal. Let's go ahead and kind of try to make this a little bit more consistent in terms of the thickness there. So I don't really want there to be these faces. These things here are a bit strange. You would not normally see that in a coffee cup. It would just, this part is just going to be kind of flush. So we're going to need a couple of extra edge loops. I'm going to grab this, our little center edge here, and we'll go back to Mesh Tools and back to Offset Edge Loop. And now I can kind of scroll until it mostly lines up with where those things are. And once we're there, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that middle one. We can go to Mesh Tools, Target Weld, go to Vertex, and we can just click and drag. Click and drag. Click and drag, and then finally click and drag. And so now when I go to Edge and I double click, let me go ahead and go back to my selection mode here. Now I get that full ring, which is what I was looking for. And we can go over to Mesh Tools and Bridge. And there we go, our little handle. And then just for fun, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to connect or select these edges here, and we'll go back to, where is it? Connect. Make sure, whoops, that's the wrong connect. It's an edit mesh. So here we can kind of follow that curvature, and I think that looks nice. Okay, great. Well, so there you go. Quick and dirty, just to do a little bit of a demonstration on how you can use some of the modeling tools that we have just discussed to create a simple model of a coffee cup. Now, you can see there's all this stuff here, right? In this case, it's not really slowing my performance down, but this list here can get very long. It's basically every operation that I just did, and I don't actually really need any of it. So I'm just going to go to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and you can see it all goes away, and that's just great. Okay, cool. So in the next video, I think we might look at one more little modeling demo here.